What if I told you that the next great war might not be fought with missiles, but with money? A silent battle is already underway between the world's two biggest economies, the United States and China.
China, 67%. That's tariffs.
成的钢铁长城面前，铸成的钢铁长城面前。
It's a war of trade, tech, currency, and power. And it's reshaping the entire global order, one decision at a time. How did we get here? And what's next? It began long before TikTok bans and semiconductor sanctions. After World War II, the U.S. emerged as the uncontested global leader, militarily, politically, and economically. Meanwhile, China was rebuilding from war, revolution, and decades of poverty. But in 1978, Deng Xiaoping launched economic reforms that opened China to the world. American businesses saw opportunity. Factories moved, trade flourished, Walmart shelves filled with made-in-China goods. And for decades, both sides benefited. Cheap goods for Americans, economic growth for China. But underneath the cooperation was quiet competition. By the early 2000s, China's economy was accelerating, fast. In 2001, China joined the World Trade Organization, WTO, gaining greater access to global markets. By 2010, China had become the world's second-largest economy. Washington began to worry, and Beijing began to assert itself. The tipping point came in 2018. The Trump administration launched tariffs on billions of dollars worth of Chinese goods, citing unfair trade practices, intellectual property theft, and a massive trade deficit. Beijing retaliated, targeting American soybeans, aircraft, and more. Suddenly, the world was in the middle of the largest trade war in modern history. The consequences? Prices went up, markets shook, and global supply chains suffered. But something deeper was happening. The U.S. was trying to slow China's rise, and China was trying to become less dependent on the U.S. This wasn't just about tariffs. It was the beginning of a full-blown economic conflict. Next came the battle for technological supremacy. In 2019, the U.S. banned Huawei, China's tech giant, from accessing American-made chips and software. Washington labeled it a national security threat. 5G networks became a battlefield. China, in turn, pushed for tech independence. It invested billions in AI, semiconductors, quantum computing, and green energy. Programs like Made in China 2025 aimed to reduce reliance on foreign technology. Meanwhile, the U.S. imposed further export restrictions, particularly around advanced chips and semiconductor equipment. It wasn't just about gadgets. It was about who would control the future of global innovation. Both countries began investing in decoupling, separating their economies to avoid mutual dependency. The Cold War of tech had begun. While trade and tech dominated headlines, another war was brewing silently: the currency war. The U.S. dollar remains the world's dominant reserve currency, used in over 80% of global trade. This gives America enormous power to sanction, to control, and to lead. But China didn't like that. Beijing began pushing the renminbi, RMB, in international trade. They signed agreements with countries like Russia, Iran, and Brazil to trade in local currencies. China also launched the digital yuan, one of the world's first central bank digital currencies. Meanwhile, the U.S. has been slower to innovate in digital finance. China's goal? Reduce dollar dominance. Create a multipolar currency world. This is economic chess, and both sides are playing carefully. The economic war is not fought alone. The U.S. has traditional allies, NATO, G7 nations, the EU. China is building its own sphere of influence through the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, regional trade agreements like RCEP, strategic partnerships with Africa, South America, and Southeast Asia. Even institutions are becoming battlegrounds. China has launched alternatives to the World Bank and IMF, like the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, AIIB. Meanwhile, Washington is working to de-risk supply chains by bringing manufacturing back home or to friendly nations. Semiconductors are being reshored to the U.S., Taiwan, and Japan. Geopolitics and economics are now inseparable. Every policy has global consequences. So, who's ahead in this economic war? China has grown dramatically. It lifted over 800 million people out of poverty. It became the world's largest exporter, and its tech and infrastructure investments are reshaping the global south. But it faces challenges. Aging population, real estate bubbles, debt crises, tight censorship. The U.S. still holds major advantages. World's top reserve currency, deep capital markets, innovation powerhouses like Silicon Valley, strong military and institutional stability. But America, too, has issues. Political polarization, inflation, rising debt, supply chain weaknesses. This isn't a war with a single winner. It's a long game. And the rest of the world is watching and adapting. The China-U.S. economic war isn't about bullets. It's about systems, power, ideologies, and the fight for future dominance. Your smartphone, your grocery prices, your investments, they're all affected by decisions made in Washington and Beijing. This economic war will shape the 21st century. Will it lead to cooperation or confrontation? Only time will tell. But one thing is certain. We're already in it. And you deserve to understand it. Subscribe for more stories that decode global power, money, and what it means for your future.